Look, there are plenty of things, game mechanics,
What are you doing?
feature sets in video games that are unrealistic, goofy, silly. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter because they're fun. So today, we're talking about 10 examples like that. Starting off at number 10, no friendly fire plus proximity mines in Far Cry 6. There are few things more satisfying than taking two game mechanics that were never really meant to be compatible and then just ramming them together in violation of all decency and common sense. So in Far Cry 6, you got these animal buddies who can help you out, right? And like most companion characters in games like this, these guys are invulnerable to friendly fire. You can't shoot your animal buddies, but covering them in proximity mines, yeah, you can do that. That's okay.
Dale. Come on, go. To me.
Just cover your crocodile friend here with more and more explosives and then just send him off to say hello and see what happens. That's a big boom, but our guy here is doing just fine. He's literally a walking anti-tank trap that's impervious to anything you throw at him. If an enemy shoots at him, he'll eventually run away, sure, but whatever cruelties you subject him to, he'll be completely fine. It kind of reminds me of in Just Cause when you plant a bunch of mines all over like a bus or an aircraft jet, only this time it's a living, breathing companion character. I wouldn't condone this digital violence against animals unless they were invincible, okay? So, yeah. Next, over at number 9, Jawa punting in Star Wars The Force Unleashed. Now, look, this game is basically a teenage Star Wars fan's dream game. The only thing it needs to be perfect 2000s era action game is some Godsmack on the soundtrack. Now, the guys who made this game clearly understood their audience well, because there's an unlockable move called the Sith Punt. And on the third level, it's filled with Jawas. So this is really happening. You get to punt some Jawas. They're mostly just here for you to slaughter. You know, they can't fight. They got other priorities. They really only take one hit to go down, so it's easy to just cut through them and then continue on your way. But with that Sith Punt unlocked, these pint-sized little guys go from minor annoyances to just comedy gold. Just pick them up and kick them. It doesn't have to be anywhere special, and it's hilarious no matter what. Like just watching these little freaks just gracefully arch through the air, through a field goal. They say you should only pick on someone your own size, but we're gonna make an exception for Jawas because seriously, abusing these things is like a Star Wars tradition at this point. It'd be wrong not to physically humiliate these little guys of the Star Wars universe. If you ask me, sometimes they're asking for it. Next, over at number 8, I already mentioned it, so I gotta talk about it now. The placeable rocket boosters from Just Cause 3. They added these completely impossible but undeniably entertaining rockets that you can just attach to just about anything. It's mostly useful for taking out vehicles or sending enemy soldiers flying off into the distance. Kind of almost like Team Rocket style, remember that? But believe it or not, that's not the only use for these things. One of our favorite pastimes are rocket cows, where you strap on a few rockets to a cow's ass and then just watch it go. Just soak it in. This is majestic, man. Again, do we need to even explain how nonsensical these rocket pods are? Even in the cartoony world of Just Cause, where you can break a fall by shooting a grappling hook into the ground, in violation of all laws of physics, these tiny little rockets that apparently can run forever and only have room for a small cup of fuel are crazy. They make no sense at all, but damn it, they're just really fun. They just make the game so much more fun. And that's what Just Cause games at this point are all about. They're not the best open world games or the most compelling third-person shooters, but if you want to just turn a game on and screw around for a half hour causing chaos in a big world, they're still some of the best in the business. Mostly just for goofy stuff like these rockets that, you don't even really have to use that much during the actual main missions. They just put them in the game because they thought they would be fun. And you know what, developers? You guys were 100% right. Next at number 7, being able to combine weapons in Dead Rising 2 was an inspired idea. It is pretty unique in that it both makes a lot of sense and is also just completely insane in equal measures. Certain weapon combos are just natural, like when you combine boxing gloves with knives, you get Wolverine claws, which are actually just a pair of boxing gloves with a bunch of knives taped on it. How effective something like that would actually be against a zombie is questionable, but at least the combination makes sense. Other than all the extra knives that got added in, but yeah, okay, like you've got to accept a little abstraction with these kinds of mechanics. Then there are the combos that just are completely impossible and insane, like combining gems and a flashlight to make, no joke, like a laser sword. Like a literal lightsaber made by combining a bunch of random gems with a light bulb and some batteries and a plastic shell. Somehow, the added element of gems turns this common household tool into a deadly weapon capable of slicing zombies in half in a single swing. Yeah, obviously it's meant to be absurd, but even compared to all the other goofy stuff you can slap together, this thing is beyond the pale. At least with the other crazy weapons, there's some kind of electronics component involved to kind of justify. The point here, though, is to just have fun. Like, we're not above the simple pleasure of chopping up zombies with a lightsaber, but this is really dumb. Even for as goofy as these games get, this is next level. And honestly, we love it. Next at number 6, having some form of a safety mechanism on a firearm in a video game would actually be pretty realistic, but that's not what we're talking about here. Somehow, in Fable 3, you can put a safety on your weapon. You know, the thing that's a big hunk of metal. Actually, it works on literally everything you've got. It doesn't matter. Essentially, it's just a friendly fire toggle. You can make it so innocent NPCs and allies are impervious to damage, or you can make it so you can kill whoever you want when you want. It's actually kind of a smart idea. So if you want to be a good guy and not kill anyone by mistake, then this toggle can just be turned on. And if you don't care and you want to be evil and smack people around, then you can just turn it off. As a game mechanic, it's not that crazy, but just how they present it makes it seem ridiculous. Like, how do you turn the safety on a sword? With it on, you can attack NPCs and it'll have no effect, and then if you turn it off, you're suddenly a serial killer. Okay. Now over at number 5, usually games try to justify their blatant disregard for reality somehow, but other times they just say screw it and just do what's fun. And in a lot of games, you can drive vehicles, obviously. A lot of these vehicles often have guns on them. And we're not talking about James Bond cars with like pop-out machine guns or something. We're talking about your bog standard Jeep with a machine gun mounted in the back. You've seen it. In a lot of games, you can shoot these things with the press of a button. But how? I mean, there's nobody there. There's nobody operating it a lot of the time. It's just a gun on a mount. When enemies are in vehicles, they need a dedicated guy to fire these things, but not you. What? Do you just have some kind of like elaborate system of strings and pulleys to actually operate the turret or something? I don't know. How is this thing firing? It doesn't matter. There's your answer. If you actually had to switch seats and directly control the turret every time you wanted to shoot something, it would be annoying. That's the reason. They let you drive and fire a gun at the same time because it's fun, man. That's the only reason, and you know what? That's good enough for us. Some games might be able to justify it, like obviously there's like a soldier auto-firing in the back of your Warthog in Halo, or Red Faction Guerrilla, maybe because, I don't know, there's some high-tech sci-fi reason why the mounted gun can shoot. But just look at something like Far Cry 1, and it's just a blatant violation of common sense. There's no way to justify how this machine gun is firing independently. It is just because it's more, and we wouldn't have it any other way. Now over at number 4, kiting is one of those game mechanics that makes no sense, but has become so ingrained in gaming culture that many RPGs have it as a specified built-in gameplay system. So if you don't know, kiting is where you draw enemies out of their location and get them to chase you someplace else, which is usually, you know, a more advantageous position for you. There are different kinds of kiting when you think about it. You know, there's the type where you're basically playing keep away, you're running in circles and using ranged attacks to avoid taking damage from a dangerous enemy. and kiting where you're intentionally just trying to separate an enemy from a group of them to fight them one at a time, rather than dealing with an entire gang of hostile enemies at once. Either way, the enemies that are susceptible to kiting have to be pretty stupid to fall for it. Anyone with any sense would rather give up than endlessly chase some guy just shooting arrows at you. Most of the time, kiting is just one of those things you do to stay alive, but it can be fun. Like when you lure dangerous enemies to NPCs that can then just take care of them for you. Even if they can't kill the enemy for you, it's still just kind of fun to watch. Like, say with Two Worlds, a game where at launch, it was actually possible to complete the game in minutes by luring the main bad guy of the game towards some town guards who would kill him and immediately trigger the ending cutscene. Yes, that doesn't work anymore, but it's still pretty funny tricking the bad guy into getting into a fight with the entire town. They put up a fight, but eventually he kills them all. And that's not really quite as impressive as ending a game early, but watching the toughest enemy in the game slaughter an entire town is kind of its own reward. Now at number 3, dying can be a very divisive mechanic in games. Sometimes it's far too punishing, like, up to including permadeath mechanics, which are about as realistic as these things go. And then you get stuff like this, where dying honestly doesn't seem so bad. It barely sets you back at all, let alone punishes you. Sometimes death matters so little that dying actually makes things easier for you. Look at the Grand Theft Auto games, for example. In a lot of ways, dying is better than being caught by the police. Both are functionally the same. If you get caught, you get dropped off at the nearest police station, while if you die, then you reappear at a hospital. The big difference is that if you're caught by the police, you lose all your guns. So it's always better to fight to the death than to get arrested.
It's over!
Sure, hospital fees ain't cheap, but they're way cheaper than real life. Like, wow, geez, only $5,000 for life-saving surgery? Hey, maybe GTA is a utopia. There are plenty of games that try to justify their overly permissive death systems in-game somehow, but then you get stuff like Battlefield Bad Company, where dying is basically meaningless and there's no justification for it. If you die, then you respawn at a checkpoint, but you keep all your progress. So all the enemies you killed stay dead, and all the objectives are still completed. How? Why? Who cares? It makes the game less frustrating. We're not gonna complain.
Preston, you have a death wish. Enemy artillery can reach you over there. Go back now.
Now down at number 2, there's something just different about Bethesda games compared to other open world games. Sure, other games might have better writing or world design or combat depending on your player preference, but there's still just something weird and special about games like Skyrim or Fallout 3, basically everything made on that engine that gives their games this odd sauce that just makes them a little bit more immersive than their open world rivals. The one mechanic that really exemplifies the Bethesda method more than anything else is grabbing. There's no real reason for it to be there, and the way it works doesn't really make any real-world sense, but it lets you interact with the world in a way that most games don't. You can actually pick up and handle random objects in the world in a very tactile way. It lets you do goofy stuff like, pick up buckets and put them on people's heads to make it so they can't see you. Or drag items out of someone's view without them noticing. Or just make massive piles of random crap, or, use some codes and cause garbage to rain down from the sky. It's funny. It serves no real in-game function. Like, you're never going to get a quest where someone asks you to just grab something and move it someplace else, at least as far as we know, or maybe do some kind of physics puzzle with it, even if they absolutely should here. It just doesn't really make any sense. I mean, grabbing stuff is a lot more like some kind of psychic power here. Moving your head too fast makes you lose your grip on the floating object for some reason. It's really just kind of hovering there more than actually being directly held by your character. But who cares? Yeah, it doesn't make much sense, but it's cool. That's a big part of the appeal of these games. No, I guess you can argue they didn't have to give all the NPCs these schedules. They didn't have to make all the random crap around actual physical objects, but they did. And you know what? You gotta respect it. Now at number 1, let's finish this off with a literally stupid game mechanic. Detection, like in stealth games and stuff. The dirty little secret about stealth in video games is that they're intentionally making enemies less smart to make stealth more fun. Even the smartest, most eagle-eyed enemies in video games would look probably like medically blind in the real world. In the few rare games where guards actually have like a realistic detection range, it mostly means that stealth is out of the question. It's not a thing. There are games that go out of their way to make guards appear smarter by having them do things like notice open doors, or if something is stolen, or see some footprints, but even then, the game makes sure that they won't notice you climbing around in the rafters above them in broad daylight, or ignore your fingers right in front of their face as you're shimmying down on a ledge below them. The reality is, for stealth games to work, the guards have to be kind of stupid and predictable. Sometimes games go a little too far with that though, and that's when stealth goes from a fun challenge to just silly fun, like in some Assassin's Creed games where you can sit behind a pillar and continuously assassinate guys over and over again as they walk into a line, all of them just oblivious of the growing pile of corpses that they're like literally walking right into.
You're mine! You can't hide! Got him!
It's always kind of funny when you're playing a sneaking game, and even though there are dead bodies all over, these clueless guards will just say that it was a false alarm and then just go back to their regular patrols, or really just go back to work.
Die! Stay sharp. Something's going on.
A lot of games do that, but the mechanic is taken to the point of absurdity in Skyrim, where guards don't just go back to normal after seeing their buddies dead. They'll go as far as giving up the search while still having arrows literally sticking out of them.
Anybody there? I guess I was just hearing things.
You can kill certain bosses in Skyrim entirely through stealth by just shooting them, waiting out their alarm phase, wait for them to give up, and then just shoot them again. Their situational awareness is so bad that they don't even notice the arrows sticking out of their head. Look, silly, goofy, stupid, it just doesn't even begin to describe how idiotic this is, but who cares? It's fun, and that's the point of this video. Unrealistic game mechanics that might be technically stupid or silly, but are actually fun. It's fun to nitpick, of course. Everybody wants realism, but the reality is there's always compromises. And sometimes they just make a game more enjoyable or more exploitable. So those are 10 kind of specific examples. We'd love to hear more from you guys in the comments if you got anything. This was a fun one to make, so let us know. Share what you got. If you like this video though, and you like talking about video games with us every single day, clicking the like button legitimately helps us. Thank you. And if you're new, consider subscribing because we put out videos every single day. But as always, thank you for watching. We'll see you guys next time.